and I know that the creative is art text has to be aligned with this ruler. So with selecting the magnifying glass from the toolbar and clicking on the positive icon, so now this is set to zoom in, I'll click on my canvas and it's zoomed in. Now I'm selecting the move tool and I'll click on the letter C just to make sure that this layer is selected. And with the arrow keys on my keyboard, I'm going to move this to the left side. And I'm just gonna look and see, okay, I think this is aligned now. Now when I zoom back with the magnifying glass, I zoom out. So now we can see that this is aligned to the ruler, the area that I wanted. But I noticed that it's too close to the typography. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the creative is art layer, and I'm using the arrow keys on my keyboard. I'm just going to move it down a little so that I can give it a nice space. Now I'm just scrolling this and moving it around using the eyes, okay? So you can also do this by using a ruler. So if I bring the ruler and I place it right at the bottom of maybe the O or the G in typography, then I know like this is how much space I have, and I can use the magnifying glass to zoom in and kind of look at the space that I have between the dots in I and the dots in I in is, and see that there is a space that I can place on top of there. So now that we have that space placed, I'm going to zoom out by clicking the magnifying and zoom out. So now we see that we have a nice space between them. We can move the rulers and put them outside of the canvas. So now we have created two texts. The first one is bold and it's large. The second one, we have a thin text, different font. And as you can see on the right side in the layers section, we have two different layers. Now, I'm going to create a third text. So again, I'm going to go into the toolbar, click T, and by clicking into my canvas, we have the text highlighted, and we are going to type in, so I'm just using random words. We can write creativity is, I'm just going to write design because the text is not very important for us right now. Just going to use it as an example. So with this one, I'm going to make it, let's see. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the size. So this one I want a smaller size. So let's go with 36. And let's change the font just to kind of explore the different fonts that we have here. So you can download any font that you like, and they will, once you install them in your system, they will automatically be included in your font list. You don't have to do anything. I have downloaded a lot of different fonts, so you might not have the same fonts in your system, but I'm just going to use something that is, maybe it looks a little bit stylish. Let's see. Okay, so let's just use this one. Now, this one only has the format available in light. Okay, so what I'm going to do, since it's almost the same as the text before creative is art, I'm going to double click on creative is art, that layer. Just click on one of the letters and I'm going to highlight it. Now I'm going to go here and I'm going to change it from thin to regular. Okay, and I'm just going to try to see what light looks like. Okay, this is much better. So now I have the typography text in a bold lettering. The creative is art is medium, and this one is thin. So using the ruler, I'm gonna bring it right before the C, and I'm gonna click on this layer. Now using the magnifying zoom in button, positive, I'm gonna zoom in, and by clicking on one of the letters, I have this layer selected, and with the arrow keys on my keyboard, I'm just going to move this so that it's aligned with the top layer, which is the creative is art. So they're all aligned next to the ruler. So if you remember in one of our sessions, we talked about aligning text, and if you're doing a design and you're unsure where to place the text, the safe section is from the left. So place it anywhere on the left side, unless you want to place it right in the center, which that is also depending on your design or your layout, the composition that you have in mind, that's totally fine. So now we have creative is art, and it feels like there's too much space in between these two, so I'm just going to click on this layer, and using the arrow keys on my mouse, I'm gonna just move it closer to the top layer. Okay, this is fine. Now, one thing we can do is we can change the size of this and just make it even a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna go with, okay, there we go. Now, by clicking, with the arrow keys on my keyboard, I'm just gonna move it closer to the top layer. Okay. Now I'm just going to click on the magnifying glass again, zoom out. So click the minus, zoom out, just to have a look at the overall design. Okay. So now we're going to add in shapes. Now in the toolbar section here, we have this icon, which is the rectangle tool. So this, if we click and hold onto this icon, we notice that there are other options which pop out. So I'm going to use the ellipse tool. Once you click and come onto your canvas and click and drag, you can create. Now you can, if you let go, the shape will be created, but you can change the shape as long as you're still holding the click. Now I'm gonna try to have it, I think this size is a good size. So when you let go, the ellipse or the circle creates. Now on my system, on default, it's not filled, so it only has this the border, the stroke around it. To change that, I'm going to go here in my toolbar. First, I'm gonna click the move tool, and by clicking in the move tool, I'm going to come back and click on this layer. So you can click it. If since the stroke is too thin, my mouse doesn't click it, so I can't select that area. But I'm going to come in my layer section, and I'm clicking the ellipse layer. So that's the new layer that's being created. And if you come up here in the properties section, so notice that if you don't have the properties section, you can go into window and select properties, and you can have that added to your window bars. Now in the section, so I have the ellipse layer selected. Notice that this box under shape details is a white box with that red line. That means that there is no fill color. So if I click on that and select the black box next to it, now I can choose a color. So let's say that I want to choose red. Okay, so now you can see that the color in my screen changed. So now the circle has a red fill color. Now if you look closer, you will notice, let me select the magnifying and click it positive so I can zoom in. You notice that this has the stroke around it. Now I don't want a stroke, so I'm going to go into back into the properties section to the right side. And this icon next to the red box is the stroke. And the number next to it is the amount of stroke that it has. So by clicking this arrow, we have this bar where we can either create a much bigger stroke